Meet us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Google+. Hey guys, this is Phil from UnderCage.com, and this is Motorola DROID Turbo with Verizon Wireless. This definitely is a Motorola powerhouse. It's got a Snapdragon 805 processor, 3GB of RAM, and finally the 5.2 inches of double QHD display, along with the 3900 milliamps of battery. Let's take a look at it from the top to bottom. Alright, it's got a speaker on the top, a 2-megapixel front-facing camera. Definitely not exactly the best choice in the selfie ages, but it does its job. Just not in a good way. 5.2 inches of a QHD display. It's an AMOLED, but it's pretty good. Back home and the multitasking key. Now, this is the biggest difference between the Motorola's, the GSM series of the Moto X, Moto G, and the Moto E, and the Verizon Wireless exclusive phones like the DROID Turbo or DROID Max HD or the DROID Max. Now, those guys are also launched in the very few regions compared to the other Motorola devices like the Moto X or Moto G. So those are more likely to have those the hardware keys than the soft key built in of the other series. On the right, it's got a power key and the volume rocker, and you can pull this volume rocker out, and it also acts as a nano SIM card tray, so you can put your SIM card there. On top, we have an earphone jack over here with nothing to the left and the micro USB port on the bottom. On the back, we got a 20.7 megapixels of camera, dual LED flash with the Motorola logo moved slightly onto the top compared to the previous Motorola DROID Max. Now, there's a Verizon Wireless logo and the DROID logo. The international version may have a different logo setting, so it could vary. The back, we have Kevlar panel or the ballistic nylon on your choice. Now, they have added the blue ballistic nylon, so you have more choice on that. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Comparing with the previous generation, the DROID Max is slightly larger compared to the 5 inches or the 5.2 inches. The resolutions got updated, Full HD and the QHD, and the camera has also been updated, along with pretty much everything else. Of course, the processor and the RAM is significantly updated. Comparing with the other phones like the Galaxy S4 over here, this is slightly bigger, but still in the chance that's gonna fit to your hand. And I didn't have any problems with holding this on my hand. Compared to the other bigger phones like the Nexus 6, the 6 inches or the 5.7-ish, 9-ish kind of phones were too big in my hands. Of course, it could depend on how big of a hand you have. Alright, so the biggest feature of the Motorola phones, of course, is that ambient display. They call it the Moto display. As you reach to the phone or you pick the phone up from your desk, you get to have that unlock screen, and that's pretty handy. If you mix and match with the lock screen gestures like that, this is greenified, but if you do it like that, then you will barely find yourself pressing the power button on the right on the conventional phones. So unlocking it gets us to the stock launcher. This is almost as stock as the vanilla Android. It's got no other gimmicky functions. It does its job, is clean, and is clean and fast in the same time. The other parts of the interface is no different. It's got almost stock Motorola Android, Google Android experience. Comes with the Android version of 4.4.4. This is not exactly the latest, but they're planning to skip the whole 5.0 builds and skip entirely to the 5.1. They promised the update not only to the DROID Turbo, but to the DROID Max. So keep updated to follow up to the trend, sort of. And it supports the LTE bands and the WCDMA bands of the other countries, and this comes factory unlocked, so if you want to use it, there are a few minor problems, but you can, basically. Alright, so interface is almost stock, except for those Motorola functions that they've added. Assist is just the automatic assistant functions, and actions, voice, and display. Displays, I just demoed you the Moto display. And the voice, it has internal built-in always listening voice recognition system, so you can call it out, calling out the phone, and you can ask it how many messages it's got, or ask them to Google Now questionnaires, and it's gonna find the answer on the internet and tell you with the TTS. Alright, so basically this has almost stock, so let me switch back to Nova Launcher. And let's start with the specs. It's got a Snapdragon 805, 3GB of RAM, and Full HD display to end everything up. And this is not exactly the fastest, but considering how Snapdragon 810 is not exactly getting the positive reviews, we guess that the Snapdragon 805 is the best one so far. It's based on the Crate architecture, and it's the fastest in the clock, and 3 gigabytes of RAM should be more than enough to support you, along with that 32 gigabytes of storage. With the Antutu benchmark, we were easy. It was easy enough to get more than 50,000 of the scores, and that was definitely one of the best that we have seen. And along with the stock Android experience, we were really happy to see how fast this guy is. It's also got LTE speed, so you won't have any lags scrolling through the internet, even the one of the heaviest websites in the world, like The Verge. Let's try it out. The Verge is known to be really heavy even on the mobile websites, and the Droid Turbo handled it pretty well. It takes a little time to load it up, but scrolling ups and down, like this speed at the site like The Verge is actually pretty good. Alright, aside from that, most of you will be wondering about the battery capacity. It comes with the 3900 milliamps of battery, and it allowed us to last about 3 hours and half, 5 hours and half of the screen on time. That's not exactly the best that we've seen, but with the QHD display and this much of high-tier specs built in, we were satisfied enough with that. We kind of expected more because the QHD display does not exactly seem to do what it's asked to do. We still think that 5.2 inches is enough served with the full HD resolution. But, you know, we want the best, and Motorola has given us the best. Alright, the camera-wise is another thing that we are always worried about when getting a Motorola device. So, the front-facing camera, 2 megapixels, that was definitely terrible. But the camera, the bad 20.7 megapixel camera, the numbers are not entirely everything. We have seen other Motorola or other manufactured devices that have tremendous number of the pixels but gave us the bad results. But now this one's slightly better than that. Now this is a photo, and the color, sharpness, and the autofocus was all good in every sense. And there's, of course, the gesture. You can swing it twice, and it takes it directly to the camera, and it can just tap on the screen to take the to capture a photo, and we were perfectly happy with that. Sound-wise, it has a built-in sound effect system. This is not a global sound effect, audio effect, so it will work on the stock music player or the Google Music Player only. So if you are using any third-party launch music player, you might want to use something else. But the sound itself was pretty good. The speaker, however, was not exactly loud enough, and when turned out to the maximum volume, it seemed like it killed some of the bass sounds that we wanted, so we can't exactly be perfectly positive of that. So overall, this Motorola DROID Turbo is an amazing device. It's easy to hold in the hand, and its battery is better than more than enough, and its performances are unbeatable by most of the phones in the market. So DROID Turbo, although it's slightly high on the price-wise, and if you're trying to get an international version because Verizon One has a locked bootloader, then it's going to cost you a lot more. Apparently, Motorola is selling their phones on the limited regions for the DROID Turbo. Currently, it's Brazil and India only, so with that price, you will have a more problem with that. But aside from the price points, and in the stateside, they had a $50 cutoff on the retail price, so you might be happier with that. Aside from the price, this was an amazing phone. We had a perfectly great experience. We hope you have the same with your DROID Turbo if you happen to get one, and we suggest that you do if you're willing for a powerhouse with the Motorola branding and the stock Android experience. So that was Motorola DROID Turbo, and we'll see you guys later. Catch up. Stay tuned.